If you have a problem being a people pleaser, you're probably struggling to close deals. I know this because not only have I seen it countless times when I'm training agency owners and coaches, but this was my problem too. I got demoted in my first sales job and I almost got fired in my second. That's how bad I sucked at sales. And I sucked because being liked by my prospects was more important to me in the moment than getting paid by my prospects. Since then, I've gone on to become the #1 rep in multiple verticals at multiple companies, learned how to build sales teams, grow a team to 100 people that were turning over $81 million in sales annually. And moreover, I've learned how to kill the people-pleasing tendencies in myself and in other people. So in this video, I'm going to give you the exact step-by-step instructions you need to kill this people-pleasing tendency so you can start making multiple six figures in sales a lot faster than I did. Let's get into it. Here's the real truth, guys. You are a people pleaser because tens and thousands of your ancestors were evolutionarily rewarded with survival for fitting into the tribe and for pleasing people. In ancient times, if you didn't have rapport with the rest of your tribe, if you didn't please other people so that they wanted to keep you around, you'd get kicked out, which just meant a slow, gruesome, and horrible death. So we're all descended from a line of stupendous badasses that learned to get along with others. One thing I've learned about sales over the 12 years I've been in it is that in most of life, creating rapport and comfortable conversations means you get better results in life. But in a sales conversation, creating rapport and comfortable conversations actually means you don't get paid. You are paid to create tension and some level of discomfort in your prospects in sales. So it runs against the grain of what usually causes us to be successful in life. Here is the definition of people pleasing. And if you're doing any of these things, this is definitely your problem, just like it was mine. You want to be liked, you want to avoid confrontation, stay safe, avoid danger, not rock the boat, not be a problem, not stick out, or not be in the spotlight or the center of attention. Now, it's also possible that at one point in your life or another, you got a lot of negative attention for being the center of attention or for being the spotlight. That was so aversive, now you want to stay out of the spotlight as much as possible. In sales, all of those desires are toxic to your actual success. Here's the things you need to do. You need to divorce yourself from needing to be liked. You need to stop deriving validation from other people's opinion, the goop or the good opinion of other people. You need to become comfortable with confrontation. You need to embrace confronting words and difficult conversations. You need to know that you are safe. Be unafraid of your prospect and unafraid of anything they can say or do to you. You need to be willing to rock the boat a little bit, call out the elephant in the room without hesitation, and you need to be comfortable being the center of attention, owning the spotlight, commanding the flow of energy and information in the call. The easiest way to build these behaviors, by the way, is to be in a community of practitioners, which I just so happen to have below. It's a school community called Sales Excellence. You can check out the link below and you can role play and get nuanced feedback on your nonverbals. We do this weekly. You can always check that out at the link below. Let's give you the tools to evaluate this for yourself when you're reviewing your own calls. You want to evaluate for what I call antitrust signals that kill your credibility. People buy from people that they trust, and trustable people need to send strong confidence signals. A confidence signal is just an indicator that you are the person who can solve their problems. People are only going to hand over their own hard-earned money or their company's reputation to someone who can truly solve their problem in exchange for that money. So here's the antitrust signals, the signals that someone is not competent and not a professional who can be trusted. They're goofy and unserious. They smile and laugh excessively. They seem nervous, rushed, hurried, or unprepared. They didn't research your business or your personal problems ahead of time. They clearly need you more than you need them, and they seem desperate. They have all the time in the world with no apparent schedule, use overexcited words like fantastic or magic or outstanding or terrific. Their body language is rapid, fluttery, and jerky. They have nervous tics, and they compliment you excessively, and they seem desperate for you to like them. Now, I do want to do a sidebar here on B2C versus B2B and the level of comfort that causes sales to happen. In B2B, comfortable people buy. You want to make your prospect as comfortable as possible. Think of the adage, nobody got fired for buying IBM. If you're old enough, you understand what this means. IBM is the main mainframe computer that people initially started buying in a B2B environment because they were so huge and trustable that nobody got fired for buying IBM. You're generally dealing with very risk-averse people in B2B, so they want to go with the vendor or the supplier who is going to, for sure, get them great results and not potentially sink their initiative or their quarterly bonus. Now in B2C, people will only really buy when you make them uncomfortable, meaning you increase the tension between where they want to go and where they are today. Who they're being today that's keeping them stuck and who they have to change to be in order to get to their goal. So your goal in B2C is to increase the tension to the point that they buy. Your goal in B2B is to decrease their fear and tension until they buy. And of course, this doesn't hold in all circumstances with all customers in all situations, but it's a general rule and adage that you have to understand so that you can maximize your close rate regardless of who you sell to. So let's talk about the flip side of the antitrust signals, the high confidence signals, the authority persona. Just think of a doctor. Would you trust a doctor who came in and was nervous, giggling, smiling, laughing, hung on your every word, deferred to your expertise, and laughed at your jokes and treated you like the best thing he'd ever met since sliced bread, and treated you like some kind of minor celebrity? No, you probably wouldn't. You'd probably leave his office as quickly as possible because he's acting really strange. And that's why, even though doctors often have very poor bedside manner and create very tense or awkward conversations, and you might even feel like they're mistreating you, people trust them as authority figures and take their advice, even when it comes to life-saving, life and death situations. So this is the signals of an authority persona that you want to emulate and eventually have predominate in your calls. A serious demeanor, someone whose demeanor is serious and not goofy, doesn't smile or laugh much except at genuinely funny things. Someone who has command of their time and their schedule. They're unhurried and unbothered with hard limits on meetings. They're eminently prepared. They are thoroughly prepared and seem to have a whole team who does research for them. They've been fully briefed on your situation. Abundance mindset. They clearly don't need you at all and seem to have more business than they can handle, possibly with a waiting list. Their body language is calm with a slow blink rate, gestures that are slow, wide, expansive, and unhurried, as if they're moving underwater. And then they're truth seekers. They confidently call out falsehoods or assumptions and carefully parse all statements for the truth or falsity of them. They are like a laser focused on your indistinct or your vague language, and you realize that they're paying close attention to how you use your words, and you're not going to be able to get away with waffling or indistinct language. This is the persona you need to cultivate to banish your people-pleasing practices and become lethal at sales. And the only way you're really gonna get there is in a community of practice, like I mentioned before. So here's the transformation, 9 behaviors to change today. It seems like being a people-pleaser and being liked by all your prospects is gonna make you better in sales, but it's actually the farthest thing from the truth. Being a bit objectionable and being unafraid to create tense conversations is what is going to make you the most money in sales. You need to learn to use breaking rapport versus seeking rapport, tonality, and language and sentence structure. So for instance, if someone says, "Oh, I want to get to this goal," that would be obviously the right thing to do. You have to be unafraid to say, "Oh, would that be obviously the right thing to do?" and question them, rather than following up everything they say with cool, amazing, got it, yeah, right. You have to be willing to let a little bit of a silence elapse after they make a statement and really look at them skeptically and quizzically and say, all right, I guess that makes sense, but I'm still not clear on why. For example, say less, it's always a good idea in sales. Listen more, also always a good idea in sales. Become comfortable with silence and become comfortable with using sales silence to draw them out of their shell. Make fewer statements, but make them more definitive. Ask more questions you know the answers to, leading questions. Compliment them less and use fewer overly enthusiastic transitional words. Now, if you just take this template and apply it to all your role plays and ask your role play AI to score you on these factors, you will be ahead of the game. But to really lock these down as behaviors and fundamentally change your identity and the place from which you operate in the sales sphere, it's best to become part of a community of practice. It doesn't have to be my community, although I happen to have an excellent one, but you have to be part of a community of people who are continuously improving and learning to improve their sales skills. Or you simply have to hire salespeople into your organization to sell for you that already have these behaviors and this identity of an authority persona. The authority persona sells more than any talk track. Who you are on the calls and the persona that the salesperson has, the vibe they bring onto the call, is more effective than any talk track or script. You could have the worst script in the world, but if it's delivered with this type of authority and persona, you're going to have a much higher close rate than someone who's saying the right words with the wrong tonality. Now you may be thinking, but Drew, what about building rapport? And I'm glad you asked, because we have a video recorded for you on the right and wrong way to build rapport, and you can view that right here.